Hi everybody, it's Joe Chaffee tonight on welcome to my YouTube channel as we take a look at some severe weather that is breaking out across parts of the Northeast and specifically in areas from eastern Pennsylvania, northwestern New Jersey, parts of the Hudson Valley into Connecticut and Long Island. Looks like, at least for now, much of the severe weather has avoided New York City and it's well north of Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C., all thanks to a weather front that is coming on through and a fairly decent little short wave in the upper atmosphere that is rolling along. And the Storm Prediction Center's latest forecast. And again, please remember it's 8:31 Eastern time. So if you're watching this on a replay, obviously it's dated. So be sure to check your local National Weather Service office page on their website by going to weather.gov. Let me also quickly say hello to everybody who's on board. I will come back to you on the chat in just a little bit. In the meantime, the red areas, two tornado watches that have been issued. The first one covering a good chunk of the state of Pennsylvania, and then that was extended into northern New Jersey and the Hudson Valley. They're clipping off a little bit of the northern fringe of that at the moment. There's also a small severe thunderstorm watch up for parts of southeastern Ohio, right up to about the West Virginia border. That is going to continue to shrink. It looks like the western edge of that particular area is not holding up all that strongly. And by the way, down in the southwest, where the remnants of Hurricane Rosa have brought some rains, that radar's calmed down a little bit, but we still have flash flood watches that are up for that particular area. So we'll get to all of that and more in just a bit. But I want to get to some of the local radars in and around the New York area. This is the Philadelphia radar. And you'll notice the boxes that are coming up are all various warnings. We have some severe thunderstorm warnings up in parts of northeastern Pennsylvania, and there was one up in northwestern New Jersey that has come down. We also had them up for parts of Long Island, which have now been pretty much reduced to marine warnings, but there are some strong thunderstorms over central and eastern Long Island. We've had some strong cells move through parts of southwestern Connecticut. We also had a brief tornado warning up for the Hudson Valley near Putnam County a while ago, but that's long gone. And we still have a little bit more work to do with regards to these thunderstorms. I'm going to take a different view here. I'm going to switch over to the Upton radar that is out of central Long Island, and we'll take a look at how everything looks from their angle. And it'll just take a second here to load. So you can see that it's pretty much this east-west line of storms. They look like they are at their peak intensity at the moment, and they are sliding eastward. They're not really pushing further south, but we are seeing that line holding up across northeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, and then back over into southern New England. So all in all, I mean, this is really outperforming what I thought there would be some showers tonight. I really didn't envision such widespread severe weather, but we had ample daytime heating today, and that really did the trick with respect to all this. And here's the full U.S. radar view. Bring that up to the front here. And you can see all the action right now pretty much with that front in the east. Again, some action down in the southwest. And also we're getting some precipitation across parts of northern Idaho and on up into through Montana. So that's all part of the storm system that's going to be taking shape out in the western part of the United States. Not much action, hardly anything at all going on in the mid-Atlantic, down in the southeast, and down toward to Florida and in the Gulf states. It looks fairly quiet in that area, at least at the moment. So let me just get me out of this picture here. Hold on a second. Hang on. To always, trying to maneuver all this is always just so much fun. So why don't we take a look at where we're going with all of this in the next couple of days and beyond. As we examine the long range, we're going to look at the tropics here and see what's happening from that respect, because we do still have some issues regarding the tropics. And I'm just trying to find that window. Where did it go? Oh boy. Hang on, folks. There's my other video. Let me try it one more time. Is this it? Nope, that ain't it. All right, let's bring that back. Okay. One more window capture. Where are you? Okay, so you know what, folks? I got to reload this. I'm going to bring up the full U.S. satellite view here in the meantime. So just bear with me 1 second while I do a little bit of maneuvering here on the technical side. Hopefully this will do the trick. And there we go. Now I got you. All right. So here's looking at what's going on, at least from the standpoint of current warnings that are up. Again, we're at 8:36. So, of course, if you're watching this later, this is all going to be dated. We've got flash flood warnings up for parts of the Hudson Valley, a couple of flash flood warnings up in parts of northeastern Pennsylvania. We have a severe thunderstorm warning that's just north of Harrisburg, and another flash flood warning back out through State College. The number of warnings seems to be diminishing now, so uh, we'll, that's probably a pretty good indication that the line of storms here in the east is past its peak intensity. So we'll work this all through, and then weather conditions are going to improve later tonight. In the next 2 days, looking okay, although a bit on the warm side. Then at this point, why don't we jump over to the tropics and take a look at what's happening here? So we have, of course, on one end, on the lower right, you can see Hurricane Sergio, another major hurricane, the ninth one of the season. And Anthony Orr, I saw put up a stat about 9 majors on the Pacific side. And Hurricane Walaka in the central Pacific, moving very close. It's within 60 miles of Johnston Island at the moment. Top winds are 150 miles an hour. It's a strong category 4 hurricane. But the satellite shows the upper low that's to the north, and it is basically pulling Walaka straight northward into its flow. This is going to eventually wrap itself up into a strong extratropical storm up in the west side of the Aleutians. And we talked about this yesterday, how this is all going to be eventually impacting the longer range pattern across North America. The track of Walaka is pretty much straight to the north. You can see that little red dot there in the bottom center of your screen. That's the hurricane warning that's up for Johnston Island, moving it pretty much straight north or east of due north, and then gradually turning it to the northeast and moving it north of 140 degrees north. This is where it eventually just gets wrapped up in that upper low. Meanwhile, out in the Atlantic side, and I hope this loop works. I was trying to load it, and it looks like it does. We have Leslie, which is out in the central Atlantic, and it hasn't really moved all that much since yesterday. And Leslie is about to become a hurricane. You can see how much better developed it is from what it was back over the weekend when it was a subtropical storm. Now it's purely tropical, obviously, and it looks like that it is just about at hurricane strength, and it's also not moving very much at all. It's just basically spinning away there in roughly the same spot. It's not going to be an issue with regards to the U.S. Obviously, it's just going to meander out there in the central Atlantic for a while. Then it looks like it'll be picked up to the north and northeast. But let's keep an eye on that disturbed weather that is beginning to develop in the central Caribbean. We still have those the wind shear issues. You see how the high level clouds are blowing east to west. The low level clouds are blowing west to east. That is not a favorable condition for tropical storm development. You want you don't want wind shear in there, and you still have it. So nothing is going to come of this over the next several days, and it may be another 5 to 7 days before it really becomes more favorable. That area is going to eventually migrate up into the Northwest Caribbean, and this could have some implications down the road because the models all of them doing something with this with regards to it becoming a tropical depression or a tropical storm sometime next week. But still in the long range, still a lot of uncertainty here. And by the way, the Hurricane Center has not made this a disturbance yet where they're running the hurricane track models. So until they do that, they were just basically in monitoring stage here when on the outlook. They're only carrying a 20% chance of tropical storm development at this point, and that is, how I think we should go with this. We'll look at the models in a second, and we'll see the models are doing with this in the longer term. So, with respect to I just want to go back to Walaka. This is the GEFS, the GFS ensemble forecast, and you can see how it moves straight north, still holds it on to some sort of identifiable low, getting up toward the Aleutian Islands. But at that stage, it's going to be absorbed eventually into that big upper low that's up there west of the Aleutians. And that is keeping the pattern the way it is, keeping the ridge in the Gulf of Alaska, trough in the west, and the flat ridge that's in the off the southeast coast back into the Gulf states. And the late afternoon GFS really didn't change too much from yesterday. Still keeps basically a flat ridge across the Gulf states. You can see Leslie out in the Atlantic gets almost to 60 degrees west before it lifts up and moves out. But that trough in the west continues. Just going to back up a second. If you look on the upper left, there's Walaka getting pulled in by that upper low, and then that gets pulled in by the big upper low that's sitting in the Bering Sea in the westernmost Aleutian. So that pumps up that ridge off the west coast, dives a deep trough into the west, and there's likely to be some snow in the Rockies out of this. Particularly maybe the northern part of the central Rockies and the northern Rockies are going to get some snow out of this next week, and they may even start over the weekend. And the ridge in the east strengthens along the mid-Atlantic states. So this is where you start to wind up with lower than normal pressures across the Gulf states and the Caribbean. So this is where we think something's going to come out of that region. And you can see it there on the upper air later next week. The GFS fires it up pretty far. It does weird things with it. It takes it to the Western Gulf and then shoots it northeastward after that because it brings down a deep trough into the east. Eventually, the ridge in the Gulf of Alaska does break down. So we do have a cooler pattern going into the middle of the month. How long that lasts, I don't know, because again, you start to have the ridge pop up a bit in the east and the trough back in the west as another big low comes in to the Aleutians and pumps up a ridge in the Gulf of Alaska. So we talked yesterday, and we've been saying this for a long time. The GFS keeps wanting to bring the trough into the east in the long range, and it keeps pushing it back every day by another day. So until we see some sort of real evidence that we're going to get a major breakdown in the overall pattern, I'm not going to get too worked up regarding where this is all going to wind up. So I'll bring up the surface map, and we can take a look at what the weather's going to be like going forward. It's going to take a little bit of time to load here. So here's our front in the east at the moment. And we can make it a little bit wider here. And hang on, everybody in the chat, because I will come and address your questions shortly. But there's your front in the east for tonight, which is going to be gone by tomorrow morning. Not much of a push behind it. The winds go southwest in a hurry. The next front approaches for Thursday and moves on through with very little weather with it. And we're going to get a high building up in southeastern Canada again. This time, I think we're going to have more of an onshore flow going into the weekend. And to the west, we have low pressure. That is part of this is the remnants of Rosa. My board is stuck again. Hang on, folks. I'm going to get rid of this. Let me get rid of this satellite picture because that's causing things to run slow. All right, let's look at the remnants of Rosa out in the west. Low pressure moving up into Idaho. So you can see the rains get carried up northward. You start to see some snows up in the Rockies and even the northern plains as another low runs up into the western lakes. Another high comes down. Then we get, this is probably where we're talking about next week, with that deep trough in the west, and you get a pretty wrapped up low in northern Colorado. So this could be a significant snowfall for, especially for elevated, the really elevated areas in Wyoming and Montana. And there will be low elevation snows with this also, up into eastern Montana and maybe even into western North Dakota eventually. You can also watch how there's the system that comes out of the Caribbean and into the Western Gulf here. By the time we get to a week from now, I want to just switch. I'm going to switch regions. By the way, I did see somebody, someone posted yesterday uh, talking about the fact that I criticized the Canadian model because the Canadian model likes to spin up lows sort of haphazardly. Well, the Canadian model likes to spin up lows haphazardly. That's what it does. It does this a lot in the tropical season. It is not a political statement. It is not a statement disparaging Canada. Okay, so let me make that clear. It is just pretty well known the way meteorologists are working with these models that uh, the uh, they all have their pluses. They all have their periods where they work well, and then they all have their periods where they don't work well. And the Canadian has a lot of problems with this. Uh, this is not controversial, okay? And it is not any kind of disparaging statement. It's a weather model. It's not a political model. So let's kind of calm down when it comes to this sort of stuff. Okay, so we'll bring up the surface map here on the North Atlantic view when it is ready to load. Load. Thank you so much. I apologize for the slowness here. Signal's getting hung up, but there's your low. By day 5, the GFS already has something here in the Northwest Caribbean. You see it there, big high up in eastern Canada, and it's way too early to even begin speculating as to where this is going to wind up. I'm just going to show you how these models are handling this today. So here's the let's get the GFS on the right time so I can switch to the European. And the European model does also in its long range it tries to spin up the system in the Northwest Caribbean, although it's a little weaker. You can see it does print out a little L there over Cuba. It wants to bring it up further to the east, okay, and that's one of the primary differences. And we go through this every single time, by the way, where the models are further east or further west. The European also has some kind of a low reflects some kind of low in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, so it might be seeing something of what the GFS is, but handling it a bit differently. And with respect to the Canadian model, we'll bring up what it's doing. And actually, this time around, the Canadian model is not really doing much of anything with what's in the Caribbean. And in fact, it just takes Leslie and just drops it southward down to south of 30 degrees north and leaves it there. And it's got some other system approaching the Leeward Islands, and it has low pressure in the Western Gulf. So the Canadian has its own view of how this is all going to play. The bottom line is that I think something is going to come out of there. We'll be watching it late in the weekend and early next week. But in the meantime, there's nothing here that we need to get concerned with. There are no models that are doing anything crazy as far as spinning this up into a Category 12 hurricane or anything like that. So we can kind of lay back that sort of nonsense with respect to what our weather models are doing with this in the short and long term, because it's way too early in the game to get involved with that. All right, I'm going to come to the chat board, but just really fast, for those of you who would like to see more weather and more work that I do, you can join my Patreon platform. It's a subscription-based platform. It's just $2 a month to start, and you'll get posts from my website, but you'll also get posts that are not on my website, and you will also get videos that I will do, have been doing for Patreon, but haven't been doing it this week because I am sort of on vacation But once I get back to normal, there will be the daily videos for Patreon members only, plus the fact that you'll be able to message me directly. I know a number of you that are on the chat tonight are on Patreon, and you can certainly are more than welcome to express your opinions on it. And you can also direct message me, which is which is a plus, because I am giving priority to Patreon members with respect to that, as opposed to, say, Facebook and Twitter. I'm trying to get everybody sort of in one place that's really interested in weather, and putting them on one particular platform. And it's a great way to support my YouTube channel and all the other stuff that I'm doing. So the Patreon link is on there for you in case you're interested. Will Leslie, A&M Weather, will Leslie make it 20 days old? Will it take the record for the longest system alive, just meandering in the Atlantic? It's got a long way to go to get that record, but does seem like it's going to be around for a while, unless the models that are picking it up and taking it away to the Northeast are correct, in which case it'll disappear after say another 7 or 8 days. But it is not going to have any impact. Ryan Ford, you said there's a tornado warning up now for your neck of the woods in northern New Jersey. Okay, let's take a look and see what's going on here. Hang on. Okay, so what do we got? Let me freshen up that radar. To put up the, we'll go to weather.gov on the window. Actually, we do have a number of warnings that are up here, so let's take a look. We do actually have a small tornado warning that has just been posted. It's 8:52 p.m. So if you're watching this later, remember that it's dated here. So I'll bring up the Weather Services page. This is weather.gov/PHI. So this is the Philadelphia Mount Holly Weather Service page. You see that little red box there in Sussex County, where we do have a tornado warning. The darker reds are all flash flood warnings that are still up for parts of the Hudson Valley and northeastern Pennsylvania. And we've got, looks like, parts of 5 counties in eastern and central PA, from State College, east, northeast, north of Harrisburg, and northwest of Allentown, Reading, that are under a severe thunderstorm warning at the moment. Bring up the radar. Let me bring up that Philadelphia radar on their shot. And so there's your tornado warning. So it's in that area of storms that are sitting just to the north of there. So the radar loop, you can see how the loop looks here. Hang on, it's coming. Yeah, so they're looking at, all right, with that cell that is in Sussex County with the tornado warning, looks like the bulk of that particular cell may have already moved east, or is about to move out of the tornado warning box. And then you've got some other strong cells just to the west of there. So they may be seeing, I'm not sure which one. I'm guessing it's that first batch that they saw the rotation out of. So those tornado warnings come and go very quickly. It should be noted. I've seen them go up sometimes for as little as a couple of minutes, and then they wind up getting taken down. So they're very fast and very volatile with regards to how long they wind up lasting. All right, coming back to you guys here in full. You can see I need to shave, but that's what happens when I take some time off. I take a break from all the usual stuff. Okay, cooler pattern will depend on whether that trough in the east is real, David Schwartz. Be skeptical as far as that is concerned. Is weather going to start cooling down in Texas this month? Well, you got that trough in the west, so eventually some kind of front is going to make it down there. It's been a little frustrating to see the weather fronts taking their sweet time coming southward. John Curry, I see the European will be running, the ECMWF will run a 6 and 18Z sometime this month. I've heard that and I've seen some stuff about it. I thought this was going to happen after they did the upgrade and they didn't. So I also don't know whether that's going to be available to the public or not. They may just not make it available to the general public and just leave us with the current free stuff that they have, which is every 24 hours, and coming out on the 0 and 12Z run. So I'm not 100% sure whether that's going to wind up that they're going to let the put the 6 and 18Z runs out there. And this just gives us another set of models to look at and another round of confusion that will no doubt be spread among forecasters when it comes to dealing with the day-to-day stuff. Hi to Chris Alley. No rain for you yet, and I am enjoying my vacation. Thank you very much. Nice thunderstorm moved through Long Island, Fallen Angel says a few minutes ago, and it's out to the east. He did follow that on the radar from earlier. Briefly had a severe thunderstorm morning up in parts of central Suffolk County. I did see that. Patrick McGill, hi back to you. Eric H., do I think Houston gets snowed this year? Didn't you get it last year? There seems to be a tendency for that to happen in the last number of years. We've seen snows get pretty far south when we get some of these cold intrusions that make it all the way down into the Gulf states. So I have no idea if that's going to be the case this time around, to be honest. I really don't, I don't look at the long range very much because it's just too problematic with regards to forecasting the short range, let alone the long range. All right, folks, going to call it a night at this point. So hope everybody had a great day. We'll have our live stream on for tomorrow around the same time. Scott Briller, thanks for reminding me. Everybody, don't forget a week from this past Monday. So this coming Monday, October the 8th, roughly a little bit after 7 o'clock on what will be our regular live stream, we are going to have Dr. Judah Cohen on as a guest, and he knows how the stratosphere works and how it impacts the Arctic regions and the weather patterns across the northern hemisphere. And he also is a big proponent and follower of the Siberian snow cover theory, which basically holds that the rate of snow cover growth in the month of October is a good indicator for the kind of winter that we may have here in the Northeast. It works a lot of the time, but like everything in weather, sometimes it doesn't work. And we'll talk to him about the years that it has worked, and talk to him a little bit about why in the last couple of years perhaps it hasn't worked quite as well. So he'll be a really good guest to have. I think you'll enjoy him very much. And that's next Monday, October the 8th. Next Tuesday, October the 9th, I will be at the Bayport Blue Point Library on Long Island at 7 o'clock to do one of my regular library talks. And the following Wednesday, October 17th, at 7, I believe at 7 o'clock, I will be at the Springfield Library in Springfield, New Jersey for my first New Jersey appearance. So those of you who are in the New York, New Jersey, Long Island area, if you want me to come to your library, let your library know that I'm available. They all have programs, and they can get in touch with me, and we'll work something out in my schedule, and we'll see if we can come out to your particular neck of the woods. All right, folks, have a great night. Hope you had a safe day, and have a great Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow. Jimmy ZNJ, New Jersey loves me. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I spent a number of years on radio in New Jersey on New Jersey 101.5, working with Alan Casper. So I'm a fairly known entity in the state of New Jersey. Great. I hope you get to come out to the Springfield Library. Also, just want to also quickly mention that we're a participant in the Amazon Services LLC program, which is an affiliate advertising program designed to provide a means for this channel to earn fees by linking to Amazon.com and its affiliated website. So if you shop on the Amazon link that I put up here, if you search for your stuff from this link and you wind up buying something, you get your stuff at the Amazon price. Amazon throws me a bit of coin back out of their pocket, and everybody's happy. And this is another way you can support my channel. So you've got Patreon, you've got the Amazon link, and thank you again for those of you who have used it. We will see you tomorrow. Stay safe with the severe weather that's going on over parts of the Northeast.